The clocks have gone back, and November has already left its icy fingerprints on the thermometer. So why not take advantage of some cut-priced games to help you make it through those cold, dark evenings?
Charging straight out of the blocks like a rampaging running back, we've got the Madden NFL 22 MVP Edition down at 40% off. The latest entry in the long-running American football series looks more impressive than ever, especially on Xbox Series X and S, where players can choose from a deliciously detailed image quality mode or a performance mode that delivers a steady 60 FPS frame rate. Either way, every pass, dash, and bone-crunching tackle is sure to look absolutely sublime. But this isn't just the same old Madden in a shiny new uniform. The next-gen version of the game features a star-driven AI, which integrates real-world data to provide your most cunning opponent yet. While the game day momentum feature ensures that players are constantly responding to the ebb and flow of the match. If you want to experience the thrill of an NFL match without the prospect of having your spine violently readjusted, Madden 2022 is the way to go.
One of this month's biggest releases is Grand Theft Auto: The Trilogy, which will land on November 11th, with the gorgeously remastered version of San Andreas going straight onto Xbox Game Pass on the very same day. But if you'd like to refamiliarize yourself with the sunny state of San Andreas before that, you can pick up the premium online edition of GTA 5 now for 55% off. Fair warning though, the area does seem to have a bit of a crime problem, and that's especially true when you take the game online, where a thriving community of players continue to ensure that the good people of Los Santos never get a moment of peace. And to be fair, Rockstar has kind of encouraged their bad behavior with a production line of upgrades and expansions that will guarantee you never run out of fun new ways to break the law.
Far Cry 6 was another one of this year's biggest and baddest, but if you fancy spending a little more time in boot camp before jetting off to Yara, why not pick up the classic edition of Far Cry 3, now that it's 2/3 off? Jacob and his friends are enjoying a thrilling vacation adventure when they accidentally stumble onto an island run by pirates. And not the yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum kind, the I will absolutely beat you up and sell you into slavery kind. Headed by the series' iconic villain Vass, these no-good sea dogs are going to put a real damper on the whole holiday unless you learn to fight back. The result is a Far Cry adventure that truly deserves to be called classic, featuring a lush open world full of deadly natural dangers and more thrilling combat than you can shake a machete at.
If you're looking for something a little less intense after all that time scrambling around in the jungle, Farming Simulator 19 could be just the thing. From sugarcane to sunflowers and soybeans, you can grow just about any kind of crop imaginable as you build up your dream farm, taking advantage of over 380 authentic vehicles from 100 of the biggest manufacturers to get your fields plowed and planted. Naturally, you can also throw some animal friends into the mix with the option to raise pigs, cows, sheep, horses. Basically, if Old MacDonald had a verse about it, you'll find it in the game. This week, all of Farming Simulator 19's agricultural fun can be yours for just half of the usual price. And the fun doesn't even stop there for all you farming fanatics, with Farming Simulator 22 set to arrive on November 22nd.
Hades was unquestionably one of this year's best additions to the Xbox Game Pass library, and it has no doubt got plenty of gamers in the mood for even more mythologically tinged roguelike action. So the good news is that Curse of the Dead Gods is now down to just 1/3 of its usual price. The bad news is that the titular curse can be a bit of a doozy. As you fight your way between the game's dangerous, dusky chambers, you'll find yourself steadily becoming more cursed. Choose to save some money by buying items with blood rather than gold, or spend too much time in the dark and your curse meter will crawl up even faster. The more cursed you become, the more nasty stuff the game will throw at you. From stat debuffs to additional traps and enemies, to a few even more creative hexes, which can actually be turned to your benefit if you use them wisely.
If you've been keeping an eye on the goings-on over in the quiet mountain town of South Park, you'll know that there are a whole bunch more scandalous seasons and foul-mouthed features on the way. So why not prepare for the onslaught by booting up South Park: The Fractured But Whole, which is now 70% off. Set immediately after the boys' previous turn-based adventure, The Stick of Truth, this one begins with a superhero-obsessed new kid arriving in town. South Park being South Park, pretty soon the whole school has made up their own spandex-clad alter egos, leading to all-out war as they compete to earn their very own multimedia franchise. Sounds kind of familiar. All of which makes for a sprawling RPG adventure full of meta jokes, messed up humor, and just straight-up weirdness, which is exactly what we've all come to expect.
Next up, Mafia 2 Definitive Edition is a steal at 67% off. Speaking of which, after being arrested for robbery, Vito Scarletta agrees to serve in the US Army to avoid a jail term. The 1940s was a kind of all-hands-on-deck decade after all. He makes it through his service safe and sound, arriving back into Empire City in 1945, ready to put his criminal past behind him. But just when he thought he was out, they pull him right back in. Turns out his dad owed a lot of money to some unsavory characters, and it's up to him to pay it off by hook or crook, perhaps a bit of both. The Definitive Edition remaster of Mafia 2 really does justice to its gorgeous period setting, absorbing you into the world of fedora hats and Thompson machine guns made famous on the big screen. If you're a gangster movie fan, this is one offer you cannot refuse.
Another game where you'd better not trust anyone is Spec Ops: The Line, which is now 80% off. Playing as the captain of an elite squad of soldiers, this third-person shooter sends you off on a recon mission in Dubai to see how things are going after the country was devastated by a giant sandstorm. The answer? Not so great. You find yourself caught in the middle of a civil war that confronts you with one nightmarish sight after another. Pretty soon, the horrors of war begin to take their toll and hallucinations begin creeping into sight. At the same time, you begin to suspect that the true objectives behind your mission are not what they first appeared to be. Unable to trust your superiors, squad mates, or even your own two eyes, Spec Ops: The Line drops you into a sandstorm of deception, distrust, and outright delusion, and leaves you on your own to find a way through. Good luck.
And if you're interested in a game which really reckons with the horrors of war, Valiant Hearts: The Great War is another excellent option, and it's now 70% off. While the game might employ a charming, hand-drawn aesthetic to bring its First World War setting to life, the developers drew on first-hand accounts to ensure that everything in it was represented as authentically as possible. Rather than playing as elite soldiers on a mission to save the world, you take control of a few regular people who find themselves swept into the action as soldiers and battlefield nurses, bringing them face to face with the worst the war has to offer. So rather than adding more fuel to the firefight, Valiant Hearts has you solving puzzles on a quest to bring loved ones back together and repair the lives that have been shattered as best you can.
Underhero starts out like a typical fantasy RPG as a dashing hero with the magic sword swaggers through a dark castle on his way towards the climactic battle that will conclude his long adventure. And then a random minion drops a chandelier on him and he dies. Playing as said random minion, it's up to you to take up that magic sword and set off on an adventure of your own. Along the way, you'll get to make use of the game's timing-based combat mechanic, which will test your reflexes along with your role-playing skills. And seeing as how you're technically still a bad guy as well, your enemies will happily exchange a tip or even a joke with you while you cross swords. Underhero upends the whole genre in a really fun way, putting a fun dark spin on a familiar pleasure. I don't know, like playing one of your favourite records backwards to see if it really does summon a demon. And best of all, it's all now 67% off.
We'll have more updates soon with all of the latest discounts, deals, and juicy bits of Xbox news. So remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell too. Bye!